Good morning to you. No doubt the Federation will obviously have a lot to say about the Finance Minister's speech yesterday, but almost eclipsing that is the sudden departure of Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter. What could they possibly say? What has been, in fact, their position in the past about Andre de Ruyter?
Well, only COSATU has made it known in the past they believe Andre de Ruyter should be held accountable for the failings of Eskom. They blamed Andre de Ruyter for the drop in the energy availability factor. They had called for him to be reined in by the minister in charge, Pravin Gordhan. They've also called for Minister Pravin Gordhan to be held accountable by the president for the performance of Eskom. No love lost between COSATU and Andre de Ruyter. We're expecting some commentary from the president and the general secretary once that briefing gets underway, but we can expect them to welcome the sudden departure of Andre de Ruyter and also have a lot to say about who should replace him and how the board should approach appointing his replacement, and of course the conditions that have been placed on Eskom by the finance minister in the budget are quite interesting, and in many respects they also go against what COSATU has been calling for, which is increased state capacity when it comes to running the country's coal mines and being able to feed Eskom with coal. Just interestingly, a few years ago, COSATU was flirting with the idea of endorsing the declaration of coal as a strategic mineral in South Africa, which would then make it available to Eskom at almost cost price and lower the price at which Eskom needs to produce electricity. So those are their views on Eskom, on Andre de Ruyter. We won't preempt whether or not they believe his sudden departure is correct or not. We'll get that from the General Secretary and the President. But what's also interesting, Oli, is the public sector wage bill. Yesterday, the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, announcing that they expect the public sector wage bill to breach 700 billion rand, 701 billion rand. He had previously thought that ceiling would be breached by 2025. It's come 2 years earlier. Last year, the government paid 690 billion rand for the public sector wage bill. This year, the government budgeting for a 3.3% wage increase for public sector unions. In the Public Sector Collective Bargaining Council right now, the government has tabled a 4.7% wage increase offer. So that contradicts what they're planning and what they've tabled to the unions. But of course, COSATU's unions intending to strike, with the exception of SATU, having served that strike notice, and that's over the 2022 agreement, which was unilaterally implemented by the state at 3% when they had demanded 10%.
Yeah, Govan, we know that COSATU is part of this arrangement called the Governing Alliance, and the leader of this alliance is the ANC. Is it a surprise to you that the ANC has decided that it's going to hold a whole media briefing, and that briefing is reacting to the finance minister's budget speech? But it also comes on the back of Andre de Ruyter almost making a joke of the political speak in ANC corridors about just how stuck in the past they are in terms of ideology in that interview. Could this media briefing have been prompted in part by that interview given by Andre de Ruyter?
The comments by Andre de Ruyter certainly do set the agenda for some of the questions that will be posed to the ANC. They're trying to only react to the budget, but the decision by the board to convene that special meeting and then amicably agreed to part ways with Andre de Ruyter certainly does really create greater expectation for the ANC to answer, specifically on the claims that Andre de Ruyter makes around the ANC's involvement in Eskom and how it appears to be allegedly using Eskom to benefit its own comrades. COSATU is briefing at almost the same time. Only what's been consistent over the last 2 years has been that the ANC hasn't taken COSATU's advice. And at their last national conference, they didn't elect any COSATU representatives onto their leadership structure, indicating their willingness to disregard COSATU even as the federation threatens an indefinite strike in the public sector and has gone almost onto the cusp of saying it will endorse the South African Communist Party to contest the elections rather than endorsing the ANC. COSATU is the ANC's biggest alliance partner. It has 2.1 million members among its affiliates of unions. Those affiliated unions also endorse the ANC and end up asking their members to contribute in campaigning for the governing party ahead of elections. When COSATU doesn't campaign, we see it in the streets where the ANC's campaign is significantly weakened. The ANC has, over the last local government election, started to do things without COSATU, not expecting the federation or the SACP to join it on the campaign trail, and it has suffered some losses, although it's not certain whether they can be attributed to the fracture in the alliance. But the alliance is at a point where it's critically stable and requires intervention. The ANC doesn't seem to be making any overtures towards COSATU to repair it. At its last bilateral meeting between COSATU and the SACP, they agreed to disagree with the president about appointing a minister of electricity and also taking government departments off the grid. And it looks like they'll forge ahead with the alliance in that state, while COSATU continues to become increasingly critical of the governing party and the decisions it makes with regards to energy and with regards to how it treats its employees in the state.
Govind Whittles setting the context for us ahead of that media briefing by COSATU in the next hour. Also, don't forget that the ANC will also be holding its own media briefing in Cape Town, reacting to the budget speech that was tabled yesterday.